The Supreme Court unanimously opted to preserve access to mifepristone, which is typically part of a two-drug regimen to induce chemical abortions. It is estimated to be responsible for about 2/3 of abortions in the United States. And as a result of this 9-0 decision, mifepristone will remain widely available via online prescription orders and available for delivery in the mail. Plaintiffs in this case had argued that the FDA improperly expanded access to the drug, and as a result, they felt that doctors could potentially run into conscientious objection dilemmas if, for example, they were forced to treat a patient in the emergency room who had a complication on mifepristone. Justice Brett Kavanaugh authored the majority opinion here, and he argued that the plaintiffs could still seek relief from the legislative and executive branches on this, but ultimately he concluded that the plaintiffs lacked the standing for a Supreme Court intervention here. This is the Supreme Court's most significant ruling on an abortion matter to date since the overturning of Roe v. Wade 2 years ago in the 2022 Dobbs decision. And almost similar to the Dobbs decision, the Supreme Court basically opted to relegate abortion to elected officials. But we should note that you can't really glean too much into the Supreme Court's decision on mifepristone because it was a ruling based on standing, and the Supreme Court could at some point down the line take up another case that passes a standing test. There was an interesting quote from Kavanaugh in this ruling as to why he felt that they lacked standing. He said, quote, "The EPA rolls back emission standards for power plants. Does a doctor have standing to sue because she may have to spend more time treating asthma patients?" So that was one of the examples he cited while trying to shoot down the standing claims. In a run-up to this decision, some Republicans had even felt a little uneasy about challenging access to mifepristone. They almost suggested that that could go too far. There's a lot of divisions among Republicans on abortion. A lot of pro-life activists have felt that the GOP is abandoning them since the overturn of Roe and abandoning the fight to protect unborn babies because it has become politically difficult for Republicans. Democrats really kind of cheered this decision, but they argued that the fight for reproductive freedom goes on now that Roe has been overturned for the past 2 years. Again, it is possible that the Supreme Court could take up another case related to mifepristone at some point down the line, and we are still waiting for another key abortion decision from the Supreme Court out of Idaho, and that pertains to the rules governing the extent to which doctors can perform abortions in emergency situations.